Good afternoon. This is Market Pulse here on News Central in partnership with Nairametrics. And of course, we're looking forward to a great show. Could some of the most capitalized and liquid companies be losing their shine with industrial stocks like BUA Cement, Dangote Cement and Lafarge taking hit? We're going to get into that. Plus, Bank Directors Association of Nigeria disagree with Otedola and Elumelu on FX windfall tax. All this and much more right here on the show. We'll be bringing you that comprehensive breakdown of market activities and also delve into the details that are driving the markets. Of course, this is Market Pulse on News Central in partnership with Nairametrics. I am your host, Joanna Mustapha. Let's get into market activities, for the day. Let's see, what went down on the NGX today. The bearish run continued into today, 0.5% down. The all-share index, 97,390.01. That's where we are at. Although there was increased trading activities in the market today from yesterday, as over 11,000 deals occurred, which led to a trade volume of 594.6 million shares. Still a bearish run. Coming to the top gainers for the first time in a long time, Oando is not on the list, is not on the top gainers list, but we do have Mecure topping the list, up 9.98%, 9.37 naira, that's where it's at. Dangote Sugar, okay, up 9.91%, Nymeth, Champion and UPL also following, still in the 9%, north of 9% gain area. Let's move now to the top losers in a twist of fate. Yes, who didn't make the top gainers list? They made the top losers list. Oando, top of the list, losing 9.97%. Are investors taking profits? We can only, speculate, when it comes to that. But CWG penny stock is also down 9.76%. Livestock feed as well, down 8.10%. And we also have the rest up there as top losers. Coming to the top movers list. And this list is quite important because your stock may be gaining, right? But is it liquid enough? Is there enough trade activity on your stock such that if you buy when you're ready to sell, you get a buyer? Those are the questions. So that's why this list is important. It's a top movers list, top traded stocks, and it shows how liquid they are. GTCO is topping that list. We can see the volume there, 72.00 M. As well, we're seeing Access Core, Oando, and Veritas Capital up on the top traded stocks, right? So while Access Holding also made the list with about 66 million shares traded, there were massive share pressures on Oando, as we did see earlier, as the top losers. Currency, the Naira appreciated against the dollar. However, we're going to see the Naira stay steady. Are we going to see it stay steady? We can't really speculate on that. The price around, 1,590, right? 1,590. How much effect will that have on the books of importers who, already planned with 1.5? We saw a dramatic appreciation as well when it comes to Kenyan shilling, which is the best performing currency in Africa so far in 2024. But joining me for a market breakdown after the break is senior research analyst at Cardinal Stone Securities, Adebayo Adebanjo. So stay with us. All right, this is Market Pulse. Right now, we're picking up the pulse of the day with Adebayo Adebanjo, senior research analyst at Cardinal Stone Securities. It's great to have you join me, Adebayo.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
All right, let's dig into some earning results, right? UAC of Nigeria PLC, they have jumped to the highest in at least 10 years when it comes to earning. According to their latest financial statements, they basically, after tax profit, pre-tax profit surged by 691.7%, right? In the first 6 months of 2024. So we're seeing that happen there, especially, in a sector with FMCGs where a lot of them are taking the beating right now, not just on the NGX, but when it comes to their earning results. So how has UAC been able to pull this off? What's their magic sauce here?
Okay, so basically, right, like you rightly said, consumer goods sector has pretty much been beaten down with, challenges around cost pressures, and FX volatility. But the thing to note actually about, the FMCG players is that in recent time, you notice that they are growing revenue. So revenue has been growing, right? But when you look at bottom line, you see, the impact of cost pressures, foreign exchange losses, and higher interest rates on their borrowings, which has pretty much eroded, their bottom line. However, for UACN, similar story, growing top line very, very strongly. But what we note from UAC is the fact that, they're very innovative in terms of, introducing new products, to the market. Even just aside from typically growing their already existing products, they've introduced a new brand called, the Kingsway Pastry Roll, which is an innovative product that is also driving, their strong top line. And then on the cost end, they are trying to, reduce their cost pressures. At the moment, we know that they are typically, trying to diversify their energy mix. They are looking at, cleaner and cheaper alternative sources of, energy. And also, what is very, very key for them is that their imports are very minimal. So they use a lot of locally sourced raw materials for their products, which does not, make them very susceptible to foreign exchange volatility. And I think the last thing is that we have to look at UACN not just as a consumer goods company. You have to understand that they have other subsidiaries that tends to prop up their earnings, like their real estate business, for instance. They made a gain of 7 billion in Q1 from a sale of a real assets from one of their subsidiaries, which is, part of the group, basically, right? And they have very strong cash position, basically a foreign exchange cash position, which is why they are reporting foreign exchange gains, as opposed to losses from other players. So that's what
that pretty much explains it, right? Yes, a lot of strategy going, there to buffer them against all the headwinds right now in the economy. Thanks for that insight. So let's go to NGX Industrial, right? They account for most of the capitalized and liquid companies on the NGX. We saw that significant rally at the beginning of the year. There's a chart up there right now, right, at the beginning of the year. But of late, right, just yesterday, one of, the three leaders in the sector, BUA Cement, was more on the sell side and is being held responsible for the negative start to, the new week. We also have Dangote Cement. That has also taken the beating. Last month, it shed about 1.2 trillion in market cap, So what's the note here for investors, especially for that NGX industrial sector?
Okay, so for the sector, right, at the beginning of the year, you'd see that most of these companies saw very, very tremendous rally at the beginning of the year. And in our own view, as a house, we had, our own worries about this kind of rally because we thought, it wasn't particularly justified. It wasn't linked to any fundamentals per se. I mean, these companies were doing okay, but, early in the year, we had not seen how they were able to be able to mitigate some of the challenges of this year. So we thought it was a bit unjustified. I mean, very notably, and this is public news, right? We saw, the activities of the likes of Otedola in Dangote Cement, for instance, early this year, right? So the stock go to as high as almost 700, if I'm not mistaken, right? So those kind of things that are not necessarily justified by fundamentals, you would expect that other shareholders that hold those kind of stocks will want to take profits, from that kind of rally. And that's what we have been seeing over since that time, a lot of, profit taking. And then when you now look at the fundamentals, a lot of these companies, Dangote Cement, BUA Cement, they are grappling with significant foreign exchange losses. As you know, BUA Cement, took that IFC loan sometime in 2022. And so it's still reeling from, having to mismatch foreign exchange borrowings with, Naira earning, right? So that kind of mismatch is causing a problem. Dangote has operations in Pan-African countries, and of course, the company reports in Naira, and it has to borrow in foreign exchange in all those countries to meet up with the working capital needs. So all these factors put together are what is affecting them. I mean, they are growing top line, like I've said, but these cost pressures are very, very significant, and Dangote, and because their business has a lot of imported components, here in Nigeria, so they reel from the impact of foreign exchange, but we think that the prices that they are currently commanding are so high, and it's because of those high prices that they have such an influence on the market. Like once a stock like loses 9%, the entire market is going down, right? So is that impact? And so we think that the stocks are priced, unfundamentally justifiably, really, in our own view. So we think that
we seeing market correction? Are we seeing that market correction going right now?
Absolutely.
That's what's
we
happening.
think that this is expected, yes.
Yeah, and speaking of, I mean, you just mentioned, when there are no fundamentals driving the price, of a stock, it's bound to, the cookies will crumble sooner or later. Your thoughts on Oando? Oando right now, what's happening with the rally? Are there fundamentals driving it, would you say?
So typically for Oando, right, to be fair, there's a bit of fundamentals driving it in our view. As you are aware, Oando recently just acquired, the onshore assets of Ajib, and that kind of cements its position in the upstream oil and gas business as a very major player. So, that asset positions Oando, to compete effectively with, the current IOCs that we have currently in Nigeria just by acquiring that, that asset. But I know that's on the fundamental side, right? But on the non-really fundamental side, as you are also aware, there's been a lot of litigation with Oando at the time when they were trying to delist from the NGX at I think 7 naira per share thereabouts. And so the judgment from the court, denying them the opportunity to delist because minority shareholders do not want to let go of these shares, right? So I think the market is reacting positively,
right,
to that news, right? And if you also consider what the asset has been acquired means for this business, so it's now operating upstream and downstream basically, and those have very strong connotations for its earnings. But we still think that the buy-ins were kind of exaggerated. We think it has been very volatile all through those times of the court cases. But now that everybody's aware now that they're not delisting, so everybody's trying to get a piece.
But they're on the losing list today, though.
Absolutely.
Today,
just like it's typical. It's typical. Once a stock rallies like that, we're talking about a stock that came from about 7-10 naira sometime about 3 months ago, and it's now at over 40 naira. Of course, you're about to see profit taken at some point, and that's just what is happening.
Right. Thank you so much for the insights, Adebayo. I wish we could have you on for longer, but time constraints. There's so many questions I want, but some other time we'll do this again. Thank you so much. Adebayo Adebanjo, Senior Research Analyst at Cardinal Stone Securities. It's a pleasure having you join me. But yes, let's move on now. There's been a lot going on, and as promised, we have our response when it comes to the Bank Directors Association of Nigeria. Any surprises that they're not necessarily echoing the voices of, strong men in the banking sector like Otedla and Elumelu? We'll get into that after this break, so stay with us. All right, you're still tuned into Market Pulse. Never so often, taking the spotlight has been the recently imposed 70% windfall tax on profit generated from foreign exchange transactions by banks, which is applicable from 2023 to 2025, if I'm not mistaken. It's obviously a developing story, so it's only right that we spotlight the latest developments on this story. The Bank Directors Association of Nigeria, in a statement signed by BDAN's chairman, Mustapha Chikeobi, has called on the federal government to reconsider its proposed windfall tax. According to the statement released, the tax has raised significant concerns in the banking sector, particularly regarding its timing and potential impact on ongoing recapitalization efforts. They're also asking several questions in the statement. Perhaps tomorrow we'll be able to get into the statement with our guests. But there's a poll up on Nairametrics page on X for you to share your opinions on that. Bank Directors Association of Nigeria, they have respectfully urged the National Assembly to revisit this amendment and engage in constructive discussion with stakeholders. You may be a stakeholder, so share your opinion up on X. We're heading down to the African markets, and of course we did see pretty much a positive performance today, mostly in the green, save Nairobi Securities Exchange, which is down 59%, and Egypt, which is down 1.26%. Hopefully we'll provide more insights on that later on, but there goes your show for today. Thank you so much for sticking with us. Apologies for the delay again. We'll continue to track the pulse of the market, 4 p.m. West African time every weekday. It's Market Pulse here on News Central in partnership with Nairametrics. Now to the global markets.